Good afternoon. Once again, this is the Close the Deal Show with Terrence McCrae, your host, where ordinary people share business tips and entrepreneurism. Today, we're going to have a guest on the show, and his name is Mr. Shaun Haines. And he's going to talk about the way a nonprofit rebuilds our community, not only here in San Francisco, but abroad. Today, I would like to introduce you all, San Francisco Bay Area viewers, Mr. Shaun Haines.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me onto the show. I look forward to sharing all the knowledge that I've gained over the years and what's motivated me to start this nonprofit organization.
What is the name of your nonprofit organization?
The name of the organization that I put together with support of friends in the community is called San Francisco Impact Partners.
Okay. So, Shaun, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I'm a native of San Francisco. I grew up here in the city. I'm a first generation native, which means my parents moved from different parts of the country as they came together to San Francisco in order to build a life for themselves and their family. And so I grew up in the city, and I've lived in different districts in San Francisco. We have 11 districts, and I've lived over the course of my life in most of them. As a native of San Francisco, I've had a lot of different experiences, from being in our school system to having experience being in poverty and having experience of being homeless. And so some of these formative experiences are very much interwoven into why I started this nonprofit organization and why I do the things that I do in the community.
So, what was that feeling like being homeless? At what age?
So the first time that I was technically considered homeless was the age of 19. I was going to San Francisco State University here, and I got a call from my parents and basically telling me to forget about my stuff and not to go home. And I understand the reasons why, and I have a wonderful relationship with my family at this point. But it was very formative in the sense that at the age of 19, I had to figure out how to be a self-sufficient adult very rapidly. I had to figure out how to continue my education. I had to figure out, how to address my housing needs. I had to figure out how to address the need to, get access to an economic stream that would support my ability to try to continue that education, to maintain housing that would keep me economically afloat so that I could progress into adulthood without having to worry about the issues that most people who are chronically homeless or don't have the resources that I had at that time to get out of the situation and to not be on our streets and to be impacted by the situations that a lot of people in our city are.
Okay, so at what age did you decide to become an advocate in public service?
So this came to me later in life. My parents would tell me many times as I grew up, that I always had an interest in supporting the community. I had always an interest in doing something that helped other people. And in my 30s, that interest became clear after a number of years of doing things that were, like starting a nonprofit. Starting a small business that really had a mindset of giving back to the community, because I started a number of small businesses in San Francisco, and every single one of those concepts had a goal of, if I'm going to make some money, I want to give it back. If I'm going to create a business, I want to create a business that connects the community and the resources in our community, that provides, a synergistic experience where people want to be participating in it because they know that they're participating in it is giving it back to the community. So those are some of the things that has always been with me. And in my 30s, how somebody says something to you that really triggers you.
Correct.
Triggers you emotionally and triggers you to really think about who you are and what you're doing in this world, and it focuses you on a path. So someone stopped me after saying something kind of inappropriate, and I gave them sort of a diplomatic response and told them I wasn't sure who they thought I was. And 20 minutes later, this person came back and said that I was giving him energy that he felt was reminiscent of Martin Luther King. And as I tell the story to a lot of people, when somebody says something like that, when somebody likens your presence to someone as great as Martin Luther King, you really, really start to evaluate your life and what you're doing with it, and how you can use that energy to perpetuate the same type of goodwill in our community, in our world, such as Martin Luther King. So from that point on, I started to put myself on a really very serious path to, understanding what gifts and talents I had, understanding the issues that other people in our communities are experiencing, and understanding the needs that other organizations and individuals in our community, and how our community is led, understanding all those different factors and sort of bringing it together to create creative solutions. And that's really the goal of this organization, is to bring leadership, bring businesses, and bring our community together to create those creative solutions as San Francisco Impact Partners.
So tell me specifically, what need are you providing in your organization, Impact Partners, which is a nonprofit, to San Francisco community? Okay, because there are so many organizations, nonprofit, not only in the Bay Area, but specifically in the city.
Yes.
To where, what is the difference between your nonprofit and the profit organizations that are out here today?
So I believe that the difference between my organization and other organizations is that I've always had this ethic about me that my grandmother instilled in me. She always said, work smart, not hard, and I liken that to not recreating wheels that already exist. And by that I mean, I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I want to do with my nonprofit organization. I've spent a lot of time talking to other nonprofit organizations and various community leaders about the issues that I want to use this organization to address, which is rooted in poverty and homelessness, and how that impacts our communities, and how that impacts the opportunities that are available to people in our communities. So, taking that ethic of not wanting to recreate anything, I started to really digest and study the issues, and to start going to other nonprofits and saying, I don't want to replace what you're doing because you're doing a good job. I want to accelerate what you're doing. So a lot of my work has been to understand, who else is doing similar things around poverty and homelessness, what's good about them, what's not so good about them, and find what I could do with my nonprofit to fill in the gaps, to help accelerate good work that is already being done. And in my research, I've learned, for people who are experiencing homelessness, what the gaps are in services, because I've been homeless myself, and I've taken the time to learn from other homelessness service organizations, what the history is of the situation in our city, and what the gaps are for somebody who's fallen through them myself, but also learning from the advocates and people who are experiencing the situation right now, what they feel the gaps are. And so, not wanting to recreate the wheel, I'm deciding to focus on, okay, let's work around the issues to create the resources to fill in that gap. So working together with nonprofits, working together with our corporate community, and working together with our leadership community, the community of people who are leaders in our city, but also the community of people who are elected leaders in our city. So, we can address this with policy, we can address this with financing, and we can address this by working together creatively with other individuals to supply the need that is being missing, and really taking the time to listen to people who are experiencing the issue themselves, the people who are homeless on our streets, the people who are experiencing poverty, and all of the ways that in which policy impact and sort of keep us locked into these situations, and devising creatively with a larger community the solutions together. So.
Could you also tell not only the venture capitalists, but to the viewers in the city, as well as in the Bay Area, those areas in which you believe, once you were formerly homeless as well, that could be addressed within the community?
In my time when I have been homeless at the age of 19, and then a couple of times since then, I have experienced, the lack of worker protection. So you could be working in an environment, and all of a sudden, even though you're doing a really good job, even though, all of your employees that work with you feel like you're doing a great job. For some reason or another, you end up without a job. So, how can policy impact somebody's economic stability to maintain a job? Is some of the things that I've looked at because I've experienced workplace discrimination. I have experienced issues with bullying. I've in the workplace. I've experienced issues with, you know, I feel like I should progress to the next level from being a mid-level person to a management level person, and seeing that I'm not able to progress to that level, having to consider moving to another job opportunity in another organization, and knowing when I go back to the previous organization or talk to my friends in the previous organization to find that they have replaced the work that I was performing with not just one person, but up to 5 people. So, having that sense of, wow, I was doing that much work that when I left, you needed 5 people to accommodate the gaps and things of that nature are some of the stuff that I take a look at.
That is excellent. So tell the viewers how you decided to get started with a nonprofit organization.
I decided to, after several years and friends telling me, the things that you do, Shaun, in this community are really in the nonprofit space. You could take it back to some of the things that I decided to do to get started. I'm the type of person that looks at things over the long term. If I decide I want to do things like run for office, which I have done, if I decide to do things like start a small business, like I have done, if I decide to do things like start a nonprofit, I sort of start to look at, businesses that already exist as a model of how I might want to move forward in similar ways. I look at nonprofits that already exist as a model of how I may want to move forward. And I look at, our elected leadership and, people who may be role models of the way that I want to move forward and progress personally. And so what motivated me to create this organization is that, wow, I've had a lot of experiences. Not only have I had the serious experience of being impoverished and being homeless, I've also dedicated myself to putting myself in positions of leadership to address the issues. So I've been on our Human Rights Commission on an advisory committee to focus on issues of housing and homelessness. I serve on other committees in our city to focus on workforce and economic development.
What specific community have you served on?
So for the workforce and economic development, the city is doing an LGBT heritage strategy program, and I've been in that environment working with our co-chairs in that environment to bring in business owners, to bring in community leaders to talk about what are the gaps, what's missing, why is this community and others having issues accessing funding, issues starting businesses, issues getting themselves established, and bringing the stakeholders to the table. You get a wealth of information and knowledge. Working with the various agencies in our city, you're able to give them ideas and to work together to create solutions to provide the necessary resources. So a lot of the things that I do with my time as the founder and executive director of this nonprofit is to really have good, serious conversations, with our city leaders and other community leaders to, really start to strategize, and it's an exciting time to be in all of these different spaces, to take the space of what I learned on our Human Rights Commission's LGBT advisory committee, thinking about housing and homeless issues, to be in this economic and workforce development committee, to focus on working with people who have the ability to help us put together programs and packages to address it in that arena, and using the resources that my nonprofit will begin to develop to support those type of initiatives, while creating other components like the missing pieces that I feel that are not being made available to our community of people who are transitionally housed, people who are homeless, people who are formerly incarcerated, who all have different roadblocks to their being successful. So I've done a lot of research with a lot of people, and I understand that there are about 4,000, kind of identified roadblocks as to why people aren't able to be successful in pulling themselves out of these situations. And some of them deal with, if you are homeless and you're living, let's say, on the streets in a tent, there's only one place in the city that you can go to for storage. So if you're not paying out of pocket, there is one place that provides storage to our homeless community that really only gives you a small amount of space, and there are less than 400 of those spaces. So imagine if you are living on the streets and you want to go to work. What are you going to do with your tent and all your belongings? How are you going to store that so that you have the security to know that when you leave that space, that it's not going to be taken away, so that you know, when you come back, everything that you need to be self-sufficient, i.e. your clothes, i.e. maybe your medication, um, i.e. any money that you might have stored because you don't really have anywhere else to store it. A lot of the goals that I want to do with my nonprofit and working with our community is to put those missing pieces into place. You know, creating a pipeline, a platform, where I know in the past that I've had the platform of support, and that's the only reason why I'm sitting in front of you today, because people made sure that I had a home over my head, a place to put my things, and then I can go out and rebuild myself, rebuild my credit, get a good apartment, get a good job, and move up from that position. I think we as a city and our leaders in the nonprofit community and our corporate community could work together to create those missing pieces.
So, what about to the people who pay taxes and say, that's not my problem?
Hmm. I think as a city, it's everyone's problem. We are impacted by the situation in so many different ways, and it makes people feel uncomfortable in so many different ways. You know, everyone wants a beautiful and clean city. Everyone wants to be able to have economic opportunity. Everybody wants to have a roof over their head. And I think if we come together on some creative solutions, we can resolve problems in a way where people feel less that it's not their problem and that they're contributing to a solution that provides a benefit to them. So, as I vision creative solutions, I try to find a way that everybody wins in a scenario versus people feeling like, okay, my tax money is going to this situation and it's just going away, and I don't feel like that's coming back in a way that adds value to my life. So when you're looking at it legislatively or when you're looking at it creatively, you really have to factor those things in so that you can get that support back. In a city like San Francisco, let's face it, a lot of people feel uncomfortable about our homelessness situation. A lot of people are under the notion that we do invest a lot of money in the remediating those issues, but the majority of that money kind of goes in interesting directions where it doesn't really actually hit the bottom level of people who are on our streets. Most of it goes to people who are in supportive situations, or it goes to creating new barriers or challenges, or or pushing people who are homeless around our streets instead of putting them into those solutions-based programs that provide the necessary platform to get out of it. I believe our city is trying to move in a direction where we are starting to provide that, and I'm excited to be in my various leadership positions and with my nonprofit to support that process.
Sounds great, Shaun. In the last 6 months, what have you actually done in the community to show the results that you're talking about today?
So in the community, I work on a lot of different things. I work on things within my nonprofit, but I also work on things in the community and in the political space. In addition to being the executive director of this organization that I founded, I also have a small business. I am also the president of a chartered Democratic club, and so I'm a public leader or a public official. And I work on projects that create workshops and programming, because it's jobs are great, housing is great, and we're all going to work on that. But we also have to get our community thinking about things differently, working together differently. And let's face it, in our country, we're dealing with some challenging issues that are really bubbling up to the surface where we all can't get away from it anymore. We have a race and racism issue in our country. So I work on a lot of issues around providing workshops to address that situation, working with leaders to create resolutions that help to address that situation in our business environment, in our nonprofit environment, and how businesses work with the city and things of that nature. So you kind of have to come at addressing all of these issues from a lot of different angles, And that's one of the things that really get me motivated and excited because, you know, I've been working together with a lot of people, and together we are working on the solutions. And we are excited this year and next year to be unveiling a lot of the projects, a lot of workshops, a lot of collaborative frameworks where, you know, groups that didn't necessarily work together before are starting to work together more than ever. Communities that didn't necessarily work together before are starting to work together more than ever. I believe this is because we realize that we're all into this together, and that the solutions are only going to be created and successful with us all at the table. So a lot of the work that I do is bringing people to the table and helping them, and them helping me, and us helping each other to deliver it together.
That sounds wonderful again, Shaun. However, what I would like to know, and the viewers would know, if an anonymous donor was to donate to you $1 million, what three things would you do with that money, and how would it make a difference in the community?
Oh, three things that I would love to do with that money. I've been working currently on some workforce development programs where I want to bring together, our business community to say, will you provide jobs to our formerly incarcerated community? Will you provide jobs to our currently homeless community? And will you provide jobs and economic opportunity to other marginalized communities that really need it? And so, take for instance our homeless community. We talked a lot about the need for storage. We talked a lot about the need for showers and bathrooms and laundry facilities. Those are the things that we take for granted when we're not experiencing that situation ourselves. I would love to be in a position to have facilities all throughout the city where, if I am homeless or someone is homeless, I want to go to work. I want to feel that self-value. I need a place to, one, go shower, two, put my stuff in storage, three, make sure that my clothes are ready so that I can go to that job and be consistent and professional and get through that. So that's one of my top goals in working with leadership in San Francisco, is to provide that. The other one is to, provide the other basic resources that you need: a shelter over your head, a consistent shelter over your head, because, if you're going to work, you need that rest. You need to feel that rest so that you can, do the best job that you can do. So, working with our leaders to make sure that we're providing, a decent amount of shelter, that we're not taking away shelter, that we're not taking away people's safety or dignity, and that we're always making sure that we're providing resources in a way that it provides that pipeline. And the last thing is to make sure that our communities are safe. And so other projects that I've been working on is to make sure that, communities and our policing are working together a little bit more better to, have the community take ownership in patrolling its spaces in a way that, you are from the community, who else is in the community, you're able to interact and keep an eye and be in a position to provide the resources and direction and things of that nature. And I feel like these are the ways that we step ourselves forward and come together, and it's much more loving and unifying than some of the things that I think we've gone through in the past.
That is something that everyone in the city should be clear in understanding. Because Shaun's message today is, we will work to end homelessness. His message is very clear, just like the Today Show, the Close the Deal. He's not only trying to make the right deal, but he's making the best deal. And uplifting spirits, homelessness, because in poverty, spirits are down. So Shaun is trying to change lives. And through that, he's advocating for better opportunities through his idea of providing storage for the homeless who do want to work, who do want to get out of shelter. In order to rebuild our community and make our community safe, you venture capitalists that are watching this show, contact Shaun. Shaun, how could they contact you?
You can email me at any time. It's Shaun at sanfranciscoimpactpartners.com. You can go to our website at sfimpactpartners.com. You'll have the opportunity to sign up to be a volunteer, to sign up to be a partner, or to sign up to, be in a position to donate to our cause and effort. And so this is a community-driven organization, and everything that I do is community-driven. So we are always looking for people who want to partner. We're always looking for organizations that want to help in a way that suits them best. One of the projects that we're working on is a care package where we can put things together to provide the resources and information. So go on to the website, San Francisco sfimpactpartners.org, and you'll be able to learn about some of these things and find out where you can plug in best.
There you have it. San Francisco, the city, the Bay Area, and to the viewers of the Close the Deal show, Shaun Haines has just shared with you not only a significant message, but a message that can impact our community. I would like for you all to tune in next time to watch our show on Monday nights at 8:30 on Channel 29. Thank you for watching.